Hey everybody, this is KELLEN KASH, and I am here with Binta Baby. You can go find her online with that title, right? Everything's still Binta Baby?
Well, Instagram is Baby Binta, but you can find me online as BINTA Dibba.
Okay, that's D-I-B-B-A. We'll put something in the description box, whatnot. And for those who are hearing it on audio, you can write it down. And today, Binta had commented on a post that I put out. She might have just saw the picture. I don't know if she saw the YouTube, but I've known Binta for a few years now. If she looks familiar, you've seen her on TV. We can talk about that more, but she was on American Top Model. Yes, and that's why she may look familiar, and she's also like rebranding herself with her new look. Ta-da! So what I wanted to talk about with her though was debunking the propaganda, the myth, the lies that Africans don't like African Americans. And we've seen that on TV. You can see it in a lot of black comedy. I remember growing up, BET Comic View, anytime they mention something about Africa, it's always negative. Which is funny because people who do comedy always imitate Richard Pryor or say he's one of their, legends. And Richard Pryor had positive things at the end of his life to talk about Africa, like he never saw any N-words, That's in case any kids are listening. But he never saw any, because he said we weren't, so he had an enlightenment. But what I wanted to talk to you about, your experience. Do you think that African Americans don't like Africans, or do Africans not like African Americans? What do you think on the topic?
Well, I definitely do believe that Africans do love African Americans, especially when we leave Africa and come to America. I feel like African Americans are the first and the most important people, from my view, from my experience, that we want to get to know. We want to get to know, we want to be friends with. Mm-hmm. And we actually admire a lot of things about them.
Okay.
So and in terms of like feeling like, oh, African Americans don't like Africans, I don't think that's necessarily all the way true. I think the younger generation, when it comes to African Americans, maybe the ones from like probably elementary school, middle school, or maybe high school, I think some of those ones, maybe they're the ones that they might challenge Africans that just migrated from Africa. But that's probably also due to the things that they hear about Africa in terms of when they're very young. They don't know a lot about Africa. And when they see Africans with the accents and stuff like that, that's when they're like, like probably tease us a little bit about the accents and stuff like that. But adult African Americans, I don't think they dislike Africans at all. I think they actually like Africans a lot, and they want to probably get to know Africans or be around Africans because they are at an age that they probably want to know more about Africa.
Okay, and their culture and their history, whatnot. So, growing up, because you came here, you weren't an adult when you came here, but were you teased?
Was I teased? I came here when I was 13. I was not teased by the African American community at all. I was asked I would say the first people that actually embraced me in middle school and actually invited me to be part of their crew was the African American community.
Okay.
I didn't know a lot of Africans in middle school at all. I was one of the few Africans, but the few first girls that actually came up to me, it's like, oh, do you want to hang with us? Do you want to sit with us? It was the African American girls.
Okay, so that can be debunked, and we didn't prep for this. Like, we didn't say you're gonna say this, you're gonna say that. You know me, I'm off the cuff. What is gonna be said is what is gonna be said, and we'll just rock with it, whatnot, uncut, unfiltered. As an entrepreneur, I got nothing to lose. You can't fire me. You who have a problem, you can't fire me. But, you know, the African culture is so rich, and 70%, last time I checked, it may even be more, of Americans, period, don't have passports. So we know for Black Americans, they really don't have passports. And some people even think like if you have certain crimes, you can't get one. You can get a passport if you have a crime and travel to most places in Africa, if not all. I haven't done that full research, but most, I'm saying, Americans don't have a passport, so they don't even know anything about the African culture except what they see on TV. The same way that, you know, if you're in Africa and you've never been to America, the only thing that you have about African Americans is what you see on TV, because not too many African Americans travel to Africa. Not enough, I would say. So get your passport is a big thing, and go take a trip. I was just telling Binta right before we recorded, I know people who are getting trips for $300, round trip tickets, $313. What's the cheapest ticket you've gotten going back home again?
I definitely would like to know more about that deal. I feel like for me, for a round trip ticket, if I get 1,500 ticket to go round trip, I would be like, nice. I'm not gonna be happy because I want to get less. I would like to pay for less, but I'll pay 1,500 because it's important. I would love to go back home. Back home to me is more fun than anywhere in this world. That's how I look at it, and I feel like it's the coolest place on earth, in my experience. Like, you feel it?
Yeah.
So
can you talk about that experience? Because some people listening, they don't know, and unless you do some real digging, like on YouTube, which is a beautiful tool, they have never even heard, like, they might only think Africa is jungle or whatnot. But
so
talk
this
about
is what I wanted to say, because he just not long ago mentioned that a lot of Black Americans do not have passports, and some of them feel like maybe even if they have certain crimes, they can't get it. So if that's the case, if there's actually a law or a rule that prevents Black Americans, there's nothing in this country, in America, that should prevent Black people from getting a passport or having a passport. You deserve it. You have 100% right to have that passport. And traveling is very important. Traveling always educates you. Like, even me, when I went to Europe and came back, I felt like I was more educated, or I was more driven. And I remember going to LA and meeting this guy who he's African American, and he just recently came from jail. But I got to know him, and then he was like my kind of tour guide, and like taking me everywhere and communicating with him. And he told me how he never left the country. And I remember I was like, you need to leave the country. There's a lot. Just recently, Donald Trump was talking about how his friends go to Africa and become rich off of that. You feel it? So I feel like there's a lot of opportunities in Africa, and people in Africa themselves do not know the opportunities that's there for them. They don't know. Just like the same way people in America here, there's a lot of opportunities here that they might not even see. But me being a foreigner, coming from somewhere else, I might see that opportunity more than they might see that. So for me, I think African Americans should be the one going back home, going back to Africa, and creating businesses out there. There's a lot of opportunity. Instead of other people going, like right now, the Arabic community and the white community, they're making a lot of money in Africa. So African Americans should also go back and make a lot of money in Africa. And I'm positive that it's gonna be African Americans that actually will care more about the Africans in Africa than other tribes or other races. So I don't think no African Americans in this country, in America here, should never be denied of a passport. Like, based on the history of this country, like, no, there should not be any form of law or anything that makes it hard for an African American to get a passport. And if there is, you guys have a huge problem that you guys need to like start working on.
It's difficult. It's not impossible. Because you can't be like you can't owe child support and get a passport. And you know, if you're like,
if you owe child support, you can't get a passport.
No, you need to pay your bill. That's what happened with Mos Def. Like, Mos Def owed, and they brought him back. Like, they were like, you need to come back. But they can actually take your passport. I've known people that if you owe child support and there's a judgment against you, they take your passport. Now you need to get caught up and you can get it back. But there's there's certain countries, like Snoop Dogg is banned from the UK. And Louis Farrakhan, I think, too, is banned from the UK. Countries can ban you for whatever, right? But it makes it difficult. But you can get a passport and inbox me, call me, email me if you have issues with that. Because where there's a will, there's a way. And, in Africa, no one's checking your record, because no one's checking your record. I know felons who've gone to Africa.
It's not even about record. We're all humans and we all do mistakes. But that does not mean that we can do better. That does not mean that we can leave that mistakes behind. So I believe that whatever mistake we have done in this world, Allah allows us to progress. Allah allows us to be like, okay, I'm done with whatever I was doing. I want to do better because I have seen the negative effects that it brings in my life and I don't want that anymore. So African Americans, I feel like this country, you guys, just the same way Native Indians are very important and they're treated especially in this country, I think African Americans do deserve the same treatment 100%, do deserve the same advantages 100%. You know how the casino world or whatever, Native Americans, I believe, are the only ones. I think they need to have something like that for African Americans. Guaranteed.
Yeah, true. They do.
I think they need to have that 100%. Because you guys were, this country there was a lot of free labor that was done by African Americans. You feel it? And this whole African Americans and Africans don't like each other. I think it's just two cousins. Somebody said it this way. It's just two cousins that it's like one of the cousins feels like, oh, they're abandoned by the other person. You feel it? Which is the Africans. Yeah. So it has that way.
So you think Africans feel abandoned by
No, not Africans. Oh, okay. African Americans. Some African Americans, they might feel like during slavery, why didn't Africans come or fight for us or this, that? Yeah. And it makes sense because there's nobody I can blame for slavery more than Africans. You feel it? I feel like Africa is such a huge continent whereby what were you doing when these other people were coming and abusing you? Yeah. You feel it? Why couldn't you fight? So that's something I would like to ask the leaders back in the day. You feel it? Yeah. So if we're still
ask them now. I've heard that. My mother-in-law has said that Africa should give African Americans some type of passage or something because America owes reparations. They don't want to pay. They may never pay. But Africa too, she said, because of exactly what you're saying, to help out. You know how hard it is for an African American to get dual citizenship in a country, even like Ghana, that's, kind of forward thinking on this. It's difficult. You have to go to Ghana at least 2 or 3 times. You need to somehow live there for a little bit. But I think a dual citizenship program, what do you think about this? If African Americans can get dual citizenship in the different countries in Africa, how many do you think would leave or get?
I think you have that privilege, and it's easy for you to get that, I'm sure, in Africa than any other countries.
So in Gambia, have you seen any African Americans ever go and get?
Well, I don't know about them being citizens there. I don't know much, but I am positive if you want it, you will get it easily. You just have to figure out what's the steps for me to get it.
Okay. And the legit way, not the
legit way.
Yeah, the legit way, not just
Yeah, just go ahead and do it. At the end of the day, we're family. No one ever is gonna have your back. No one ever is gonna understand you more than us. There will not be nobody. You look like me. You feel it? Our skin tones are not different. And the same way you need to see Africa, you need to experience Africa, is the same way we also need you. Because you being Black Americans living in America or any other world, there's some information that they know about this world that we don't know. There's also a lot of information that we know back home in Africa that they don't know. Yeah. So once we share that information, once we decide that, okay, all of us, we need to be allies, or we need to come together finally, then we will be a big power force in this world.
Amen.
We will, everyone, like, people will respect us. We can finally gain respect from everyone else, because I feel like not a lot of people respect us. You feel it?
And what do you think about black people? Like, everywhere I go, whatever country, and if it's black or whatever community, black people do the similar things. You know, we'll eat similar things, we act similar ways, good and bad. It's like I can feel the like, could be my cousin. I could be even in Mexico, be in black Mexico, and there's black people in Mexico that are, from
we're the same
slavery.
people. We're the same. We come from the same continent. You feel it? So it's the same thing. Just like how in Africa, or there's gonna be a Nigerian and a Gambian, but once we're in Washington, it's not a lot of us. So if somebody is from Nigeria, or I'm gonna feel like, just because it's not a lot of other Africans or something, I might be like, oh yeah, we're gonna be really cool, because we feel like we're gonna have each other's back.
Yeah.
You feel it? Just the same way right now Donald Trump is talking about his Norway people, because that's where they're from. You feel it? So
yeah, and they want to be around.
And he's like, he doesn't want any other people from supposedly shithole countries or whatever. And why not, let's invite Norway people. What he's saying is, let's invite more of my cousins from my ancestors.
Yeah.
In this country. You feel it? So, I don't know. I feel like, I do think African Americans and Africans, or Black Americans and Africans, I think we definitely do need each other 100% in this world. We really do need each other, and I think once we realize that, and we all put like a lot of effort into it, Africa can be a huge continent. You feel it? And yeah, I think...
And we need to get it before the Chinese. I mean, the Chinese are heavily invested in Africa. America is right after, create military bases. It's almost like they want to start a war on the continent.
Maybe we should do whereby African Americans and Africans start marrying each other. I think that's not a bad idea. I think
it's a thing that many African women will agree to. I mean, my wife is from Cameroon, and I see it all the time, especially with men, and African American men. Now, you don't have to comment on this. I'm just going to make this bold statement. African American men. My most popular video is, should black men run to Brazil? And so many people say, they're tired of, they say, the American woman, they'll say the black woman from America, because they're not doing the traditional roles as much because they're not forced to. But when you get an African woman, she was still raised on those traditional values, to the point where she could even work and still want to cook, not because she's forced to, because we know as Americans we can't force anybody to do anything, and still be free at least. But the African woman is still a traditional woman. I haven't met one that is like, I'm not going to cook, and that's the propaganda with a lot of black American women. And it's not totally true, but every woman wants to feel free. Every person wants to feel free. And so I understand why someone could say, I don't cook, or I'm not good at cooking, but that's just not somebody personally I would choose. So if you want a good woman who does do the traditional things without question, 9 out of 10 times it's going to be an African woman.
I think, with that, let me defend women in this world. It doesn't matter whether you're black, African, anywhere. I think when it comes to things like that, what I would advise, or what I would say, let's all go back to the religion and follow those rules. For me, that's how, as being a Muslim woman, I feel like that's when I won't even be like, oh, cooking this. Let's just go back to what the Quran says, that how it should be. Then let's just do it that way. But I think I went to Western Washington University, and I always say this all the time. The African Americans at Western Washington University they were doing extremely well. You feel I admire. I was in the Black Student Union step team, and the girls there, I can always say, the Africans were more troublemakers over there than the Black Americans.
Okay.
From my experience, and I met some women there that I feel like they can be amazing wives to anyone. You feel it? So I feel like that whole marriage thing, the only way anyone could answer that is if we all go back to the religion, Islam. I feel like that's the way that we can like solve that.
And even for the Christians, the scriptures are I mean, it's clear on, you know, people's roles.
Yeah.
But we'll also have some haters that say, well, I don't believe in, and if you don't believe in anything,
I feel like if the
issue.
man is paying all the bills,
Mm-hmm.
if he's paying all the bills, why not? Like, your only job then as a woman is to take care of the house, take care of the kids, and make sure that he's fed.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, because there's some men from my experience whereby you guys are 100% doing everything together. Like a lot of women, we wanna be able to help too.
Mm-hmm.
You feel it? So if I'm working, you're working,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna share. I'm gonna be human. As a human, I wanna be good to you. So I'm also paying half of everything. You feel it?
Well, you don't have to pay half
If I'm paying half of everything, and then you're telling me, oh, you need to be cooking, you need to be cleaning, and some guys are so mean to the point that you will go to, like, while they're working, as a woman, you will feel bad to like not cook for them when they come home.
Mm-hmm.
So you cook for them, you do nice things for them. Then when you go to work, they're home not doing anything, waiting for you to get home. When you get home, they're like, can you cook? I'm like, you're so mean.
And that's a lazy man.
There's a lot of, so men like that, when they complain about women, oh, they're not cooking, don't worry about those ones. Those ones, they need to be right themselves before they can even be with you.
And they need to be alone.
They need to, so
they need to be alone.
if he's paying all the bills, 100%, why not? If he's paying all the bills, what else should you be doing?
Yeah, but there's so many career people, even with you. You know, you went on a big TV show and you have your career. I don't think anybody wants to be told that all I want you to do is sit at home and, you know, cook and clean. Like, people want freedom. But it's just nice. It is a beautiful thing as a man, for a woman. You don't even have to ask. You don't even have to wonder. You know that it's going to be done, especially if you have kids, you know.
The good thing about a woman, what I like about a woman being home is you get to raise your kids. You get to have control over what your kids go through. Like being a child, I know what I went through as a child.
Mm-hmm.
You feel it? So I feel like it's nice for you to know everything that's going on. Because if other people are taking care of your child, you don't know what they're exposing your child to. You don't know what they're doing to your child. So it makes sense. As a woman, the baby's coming from you, and your husband goes and work or do whatever, and you take care of your child, and you raise the child to be something great that it's gonna be beneficial for that child.
Okay.
So if you're working all the time, you don't know where your kids are gonna be. You don't know what they're gonna experience, and then those are the kids that grew up and later and said that this person touched me when I was young. This, that. You feel it? So for me, I would love to be home and working from home. And the Prophet's wife, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his wife Khadija, who she was a businesswoman. She was working from home, taking care of her kids, but she was making all kinds of moves. And we're living in a generation that it allows us to do that. You can be home, you can do all the talking or whatever, and your husband can always go get the money.
Yeah.
You feel it? So like I like the idea of being home. Like I would be home. I don't want other people raising my kids, guaranteed. So I want to be raising my kids because I know it's important for me to know everything that's going on with my kids.
Yeah. And everybody says they want to be home, but something about this American system, it almost makes two people have to work, and some people have to work multiple jobs. Can you tell the audience in Africa how growing up it is as a child? Because when I talk about people and, you know, they having house help, you know, it could be family, it could be somebody you're giving a job to, they say, what do you mean? Africans have maids? I say, one, it's house help. because made has this connotation, where people are, it's just bad, But can you talk about the house help and growing up with, maybe you had a driver, maybe you didn't, but maybe you knew someone who did, but how growing up in Africa was, especially compared to America, because we are working really like dogs here just to, make ends meet. And in Africa,
I think what makes, I think there's struggles anywhere in this world. You will go through the same kind of struggles everywhere, I feel like. But the thing with Africa is that a lot of us, or a lot of our families already have properties there. So rent is usually, and a lot of people come together, understand? So it's not like here whereby some people can come from like families that their parents don't even own the house.
Yeah.
You feel it? And then until when they passed away or when their parents passed away, no one still owned the house. So I feel like the rent situation is what helps us over there. And growing up, I grew up with my grandma, like in our compound. My grandfather had different houses somewhere else.
Wait, explain that compound. For that person, she said a compound. That's not a regular house.
It's a huge land. It's a huge. My grandfather did good for himself in terms of he had a couple of wives. So I grew up where my grandma had her section, and my grandma's the other wife who passed away, but the kid is over there with his other section. So a lot of people also like grew up or kids or die from the same house that their parents built.
Okay.
You feel it? So I feel like it's not bad to be independent. I do like, well, Africans, when we come here, we do learn a lot more about independence.
Okay.
Because we come from like, rent-free, already have a house or place that you're gonna stay.
Yeah.
So we're here, you don't have the same opportunities like you do over there, so you have to work and you have to hustle. And it's not a bad thing to always hustle. But yeah, I grew up in houses that we also had maids and stuff because the wife or whoever felt like she needed extra help and they had enough money to hire somebody else who wants that kind of job. And yeah, I went to schools that were considered private schools. I never felt like I was poor at all. Yeah, I never felt like I didn't know what really, I never ever felt like
and you were probably, like many of your friends, just average. It wasn't like you were special. It wasn't like you were a princess. It was just, that's the culture. And that's true for so many people who come here. Like when you see somebody come here and you might see, them doing a job, maybe it's Uber, maybe it's something menial to you, but back home, that person was living like a king. And you wouldn't know what that feels like because you're steadily trying to, just pay your bills. You're one check away. And that's why I always talk about this with people. They say, why would you want to go move to Africa? I said, because let's say you're making $40,000 here. Your goal is to say, I want to make 100,000. Or if you're making 100,000, your goal is to make $1 million. Just so you can get this certain type of lifestyle. But based on with your knowledge and your skills, you could go to a second and third world country and you could be living like you had 100,000 or $1 million because the quality of life increases, but the with your money, especially when you have dollars, you can go to Africa and go have a great vacation for a month with $2,000. You can't do that in Miami. You can't do that in New York. You can't do that in San Francisco. So why would you not? I have a friend who he lives off $10,000 a year in Colombia. And he's like, I have a whirlpool jacuzzi. I'm in a gated area. I have friends who all over, and they're really living where I think sometimes we're just trying to keep up with the Joneses. So
if you can succeed really well in this country, it's an amazing thing. The richest person in this world is living in America, and they built this country to be the world police of this world, right? So if we can get a share of that money, why not?
Yeah, and take it back. We don't have to spend it here. We can take it back and go wherever, because Africa won't be for everybody.
I don't even think, I feel like this world, it's not about this world. We all just need to realize that we're all just human, and let's figure out a way to share the wealth of this world for every single human being that's on this earth. That's the only way things would make sense for us. Things would be a little bit better for us if we look at each other as we're just humans here, and the earth, it belongs to every single person. It's not like, oh, you can't come to this other area. Like just the same way they try to do a travel ban. To me, that's a sin, because just because I was born at this section of the world, does not mean that I can't go to the other section of the world.
Yeah.
That does not mean that I can. We can find opportunities anywhere, but we just need to figure out a way to be fair to everyone. Figure out a way to be sensitive to everyone. Figure out a way to be just nice to everyone. There's people in Asia that are probably suffering more than people in Africa. So if we're out here, sometimes I say, I'm like, this country, they're just eating the sin. Like when I was watching the whole election before, I believe it was the Trump area, before Trump became president. One of the candidates was like, the best way America could succeed, I'm not quoting it exactly how she said it, but it was basically, what she was basically saying is that they should control other people's, other countries should depend on the economy of this country for them to succeed. When I heard that, I was like, that is so like, why would somebody can say that confidently?
Because they're a white supremacist.
You feel it? That's like, and imagine all that wealth you're getting, you can have it, but that doesn't mean you're happy.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're spending it at a place that actually even matters.
Yeah.
You feel it? And happiness in this world, like happiness from your home, happiness with your family is the most important thing in this world that any of us want.
Yes.
Without it, we're not happy. If I don't have love, or if I don't have somebody that I want to talk to or happy, I'm not happy. And that's the most important thing in this world. And feeding ourselves and having something in our stomach. Feel it? So why don't we forget about everything else and be like, okay, let's just let's just make sure everyone have food first.
That's a very, I'm going to say, African way of thinking. Because here in America, it's everyone for themselves. It's capitalism.
And that's why they took advantage of us, Africa, is because maybe we have a heart. Maybe we are okay with sharing. Maybe that's why when you're super nice, some people can take advantage of it. That doesn't mean that I'm slow. That doesn't mean that I'm bad or anything. It's just that I have a heart. I'm human.
Yeah, human, not a monster. And the same thing is true with what we call the Native Americans. The same true. You don't have too many people, except folks, from Europe. And I'm not saying everybody, but Europe has this way of conquering. They want to conquer the world. Only in Europe have they, wanted to conquer the world. They'll kill everyone. People could say, okay, Africa had empires and there was killings. We're not saying no one killed, but we're talking about who in Africa tried to go over to Europe and take their land. Who in Africa,
and we should be proud of that.
We should be proud.
We're proud of that.
Yeah.
And because we're not evil, we're not inhuman, we're not, it's great. And then during the whole slavery thing, the people that were helping the other people to achieve whatever evil stuff they were trying to do, those are the evil, that person themselves, they were not right. You feel it? So I think this world is too much in terms of like everything humans, what we're doing to ourselves. And that's why I decided to go choose the religion and actually go towards the whole, because I believe we're gonna die, and once we die, there's something out there that none of us really do know. You feel it? So if there's history of people telling us, okay, this is what happened before, and me being born as a Muslim and doing research, I'm like, you know what? I believe in this, and there's nothing I can actually lose by following these rules.
Yes.
You feel it? There's nothing I could lose but gain. And if they're saying this is how the world should be for us to be happy, for us to see the results that make sense, then maybe we should all start living that way. And I 100% do believe that. I believe 100% in terms of like the Quran and like what it really says. It's like, it's not easy, to be honest. It's not easy to live that life exactly, but if we all try, maybe we'll see something
Yeah, I agree. And we have to remember, even in all of our lives, business-wise, because here, when you try to do business, business is cutthroat. You try to play the game straight up, but the other person is lying. And you shouldn't conform to start lying. I see a lot of black Americans trying to conform to try to fit in to get that extra dollar. But if you have to lie, it's like selling your soul. You know, you don't have to be in the Illuminati to sell your soul just to get some money. Play the game straight up, and if you don't make $20 million, who cares? Go to Africa.
Yeah, it's better to have, the Quran really says that, it's better to have good money. Because if it's bad money, if the money is not all the way great, it's not even going to be useful to you. That's just not natural. That's like just part of the rules. If it's not good, if the money is not, if the money isn't blessed, you're not gonna spend it the right way. Yeah. If the money is blessed, it will go to where it really matters. Yeah.
You know, the scriptures say to a fool and his money. So whether it's the Quran or the Holy Scriptures, and just being, you know, for those of you who say, I don't believe in anything, just being a right person. And you know, some of y'all talk the universe, I don't talk that way, but whatever you think the universe is putting into you, you know, it's evil is evil and good is good. And you have that discernment, you have that inside of you to know what right is right and wrong is wrong. So I'm glad we had that. I do want to talk about your next ventures. And we're going to get to that next. And then I'll let you go on your day. Hey everybody, this is KELLEN KASH again, still here with Binta. She's given so much enlightenment, whatnot, and I want to talk about her next ventures. You know, Binta was on America's Top Model. That's Tyra Banks' show, and she was there, and I saw her even on the local news here. She was in the big Hummer limo or party bus or whatnot, and they, of course, they didn't show the most positive parts of your being. But talk about what is next for you. What do you want to do, and what are you gonna do?
For me, the biggest thing that I could do in this world, and I can feel like I've made it, is to know every single word in the Quran and memorize everything in the Quran.
Wow, that's deep.
You feel it? So yeah. I feel like that's the most important thing for me to do, because at least when I know the Quran, then I will know how to really live on this earth. Mm-hmm. I will know what moves to do, what moves not to do. Mm-hmm. And I will find the happiness that everyone talks about that's in it. So that's like my next goal. My next goal is just to know the Quran 100%. Like, I don't care about anything else but just learning the Quran. They say that's the book that they say it has all the information that you need to know to live on this earth. Then why do I need to go to college? Why do I need to go? Like, the book is, and it's free. It's free education. It's not like pay all this. It's not a business. They actually want you to know this information. Yes. You feel it? And I believe in it 100%. And yeah, I used to be scared of death. Now I'm not anymore. Okay. And yeah, I feel like once I get that down, everything else is gonna be easier. Awesome. For me, everything else will just make sense for me.
Did you rehearse that answer? That's a great.
No, I didn't rehearse the answer at all. I feel like, because that's the most important thing for me to know, is to know the Quran. Yeah. It's the most important thing in this world. Is just to know the Quran. And when you learn the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he will inspire you. Yeah. 100%. And he made a comment, just since we're talking about black things in Africa, he made this thing from when I was learning about him, that I really like. When he was very young, one of the lady who was a slave that took care of him, because sometimes they send kids to other places to get taken care of. When they're older, they take them to their parents. So he did release the slave later on. He made her a non-slave. All the slaves that he knew, he released and made them non-slaves. But he said, any man who wants to marry a woman from heaven is this woman. Okay. The black woman. The dark-skinned black woman. He said, if you want to marry a woman from heaven, It's hard. And the reason he said that is because the woman took care of him. Even though she was a slave, I am positive that she did her job really well because he was a child and it doesn't matter what she was going through as a slave. She took care of that guy.
Now, do you remember where that was?
If you learn the life of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam from Mufti Man, you will know all about that information. And I forgot the woman's name.
Okay, well, you're gonna find it, and then I'm gonna put it in the description box.
Yes. So you guys, yeah. And then some man decided to marry the woman, and then they ended up having their son became the leader of the Muslim army and stuff like that.
And the reason this is important for the audience is because people know, like from the books that I've written about the Christian entertainment industry and whatnot, that people need to, you need to know both sides. You need to know more than what just your grandmother or your pastor had taught you growing up. And, you know, I've even seen black Americans, I've seen black Africans say, you can't say inshallah. I said, why can't I say inshallah? It's Arabic. No, there's more to that. You can't, like, even when you say Allah, right, they would have an issue because in their mind, the church has got them where, you know, they have to say God or some have to say, you know, Jesus, Yahweh, whatever. And it's like they are so entrapped into their world that they can't even, if you were going to go to Dubai and you were to learn Arabic, would you be saying, you know, you'd be speaking Arabic, but then when you say God, you say God instead of Allah. And you're in Dubai or you're in, you know, an Arabic speaking country.
As long as you're referring to that one Allah, you're referring to just, you know, there's only one Allah. You know, you feel it. As long as you're referring, you know, and you have that respect in that conversation, that's all that matters. That's what Allah wants. I'm sure. Like, you feel it. So, yeah, I think African Americans do research about this, about Islam, and learn about Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Mufti Man, who was born and raised in Zimbabwe. He's from an Arabic descendant, but learn about Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and then the first, you know, in Islam, when they call out for prayer, the first person that ever did that call out for prayer, it was a free black slave that he chose. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam chose to, and what that tells you, for me, from what I feel like that tells me is that they chose that black guy because they felt like his voice was strong. You feel it? So I feel like black people, our voice is special.
Yeah.
If you look at the entertainment industry, it's black people that are running it. They have
always
the most talents.
Always.
You feel it? So, but what black people need to do is make good use of that voice.
Yeah.
Instead of Buddhist, not Astafallah.
Yeah.
Dancing. Just, you make good use of that voice. The Michael Jackson or Beyonce, if you think the biggest entertainers in this world, or the biggest people that really, when it comes to their voice or sing or whatever, is black. They come from black people. It's black people. So let's use our voice to educate the world. If we have this special thing, and we feel we are the ones that are going through it, we could be the ones that are going through it more than any other race in this world. So why don't we actually start and be like, we're leaders in this world, and we're gonna talk to people and tell them to do right.
Amen. Amen. So on your social media, I want you to give it again. And I know you have a YouTube, yeah?
I haven't been posting things.
But it's still active?
It's there.
It's
I'll
there?
be on it soon, inshallah.
Give them the YouTube, and I'll do my best to put that in the description box too, because you have a lot to inform the people, and it's a unique perspective. They need to hear more of it, and you know, it's not even about having 1 million views. It's about us documenting our journey, our voice, so we can put that next generation, they come one step above, and they don't have, you know, any complex about themselves. So what is your YouTube for those who want to find you?
My YouTube is BINTA Dibba. My Instagram is Baby Binta. Snapchat BINTA Dibba, and Facebook BINTA Dibba. So just Google Binta, B-I-N-T-A, last name D-I-B-B-A, and yeah, you'll find information about me, and yeah.
Awesome, awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time. I caught her in a very busy schedule, day off, but she was running so many errands, so I appreciate it, Binta, taking the time out and
Thank
informing
you.
the audience.
Thank you, John.